Thank you. Thank you. Frank, alcoholic, addict, and a grateful member of Al-Anon, but please don't take that out of the room, okay? When it gets real serious about your recovery and you want to go to Al-Anon, come and see me. It's the last thing I wanted to do because I was working a program before I got involved with anybody that needed that kind of help. I grew up in San Pedro. The farthest I do have a PhD, a Pedro High diploma. That's about as far as I get. I struggled in school. I knew that going to college just wasn't for me. I just struggled with it. Hey, thank you, brother. I had I was blessed. I didn't realize this. My father was a fisherman. My mom was a housewife. And we didn't know we were just, middle class people. I've had big ego ever since I was a, little boy. And, it was a parochial education at Holy Trinity, Mary Star, Furman La Swen. My senior year, the school closed down. My Catholic boys' school closed down. And I was really disappointed because that was my senior year. I was going to play ball. I was going to be starting. And the school closed down. I had to go to Pedro High. There's 1,400 kids in that graduating class that year. At our 20-year reunion, we had 1,000 people. That's the wives and everything that goes there. It was unbelievable. And when I'm around that many people, I don't know about you, but this is where I learned to socialize without a glass in my hand. There's no way I could socialize without drinking, without having a few pops before I went any place. But at 18. I had to get away from my parents. They were always asking me, where you been? Are you drinking? You smell like pot. And I wasn't smoking pot. Yeah, maybe it was. But I was like, I just, I got to get away from this, and I was able to get a job as a Teamster down here at the fish markets. There's plenty of jobs around here for you guys that, blue collar guys. The longshoring isn't the only, job in town here. I had to start off at a minimum wage job at 30 years old. But what it was I was working with these guys. I was 18 years old, and every Friday would clean up the trucks, and somebody would bring a case of beer and would start drinking. And then the older guys said, "Hey, we're going to go up to the Crest." What was right there was where the apartment building is on 22nd and Mesa, and after I was drinking with those guys for a while, I was able to maintain. And if you can maintain around these guys, they'll take you drinking with them, as long as you don't act up. I always wanted to be in the big boys club. I always wanted to hang out with the guys. And you know what? I started having a wonderful time with these guys. And after that, they'd go to, it was Kenny Carpenter's place, and Kenny's dead now, but would go to his bar, and we were drinking VO in the tub. And when I was living with, when I moved out of the house, I moved in with a guy that was a connection, and he sold pot, he sold blow, and that was about as far as we went then. And when I was driving a truck, I felt like I was a prince of the city, from South El Monte to the San Fernando Valley, from San Pedro to Burbank, and all spots in between, with making these stops with these trucks. I was meeting people all over the world. I had a lot of fun in East LA, White Fence, Boyle Heights, the Avenues, City Terrace. These are the guys that worked at the refrigeration plants in downtown LA, and I'd go pick up. I felt like I really, knew I was one of the boys, especially, when you have the bag, you got everybody's. When you're bringing something with you, you're invited to a lot of different places. And I got to tell you, I got in really bad trouble one time. Now we're having a party at Whiskey Flats. It's right down, right off Pacific. Kirkhoff, in between 34th and 38th Street, and we're partying, and I'm going to the liquor store, and let me get back to this. I had to get away from that fish market job, because I was stealing more out of that fish market than I was making on my paycheck. And something, this is something that I wasn't raised with. Something, I got caught stealing when I was a kid. It was the only time my dad ever put his fists on me. Lying, cheating, stealing. And it's like a disease with us. And I tried to get away with it as much as I could, but it just wasn't working. My conscience would bother me. And for about 5 years, I'd worked at this market, and this is my godfather I'm working for. And if you know anything about godparents, and you're from Pedro, if you're Mexican or if you're Italian, you know that changes water to wine there. You know that you become blood when your godmother is a Sita and your godfather is a Gumbada. And it was tough getting out of there because he didn't want to see me go. I got a job on one of these big fishing boats down here, and I was so happy to get away. And you know, all I had to do was, you have to work for free on these boats before you could really prove yourself to these people. And you know, the boat sank at the dock. Somebody, we were doing some work, it sank at the dock, and it was like, what am I going to do here? This is a 500-ton boat, man. This is a big boat, man. This isn't, you know, the SS Minnow, man. I was going, man, what am I going to do? God, what's up with this, man? And my godfather sent one of the boys down there. Come on, you got to come back to the markets. I go, Uncle Nino, I can't go back, man. I got to stay with this boat. And so I went for that day, and then I went back, and we got the boat fixed up. It was an ass-kicking job to bring that boat out of the water. I mean, we're talking about chain falls, come-alongs. We're talking about working, 16-hour days to get the boat to the shipyard before the shipyard took over on it. And after we were out there 87 days, the boat sank outside. And so, like, I mean, we're out in the middle of the ocean, man. We're 1,000 miles offshore. And we're in the tropics. It's 80, maybe 82 degrees of the water. But, I'm in the water for 24 hours before anybody picked us up. And a Mexican tanker picked us up and brought us back to, where was it? It wasn't Cabo San Lucas, Manzanillo. We couldn't get out of there. All we could do there was just drink the whole time we were there. But when we got home, I got on another boat, and it was a great boat. We were making big money. And you're only working 6 months out of the year, and you're making from $50,000 to $75,000 a year. This is in 1978 to 1984. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's like $300,000-$400,000 nowadays. And, my ego is just, I'm on top of the world. And you're only working 6 months, but it's ass-kicking work, man. I got to tell you, there's something really cool about when we used to fish at night, and it's only the Pedro fleet that did this. You can't have any moon. It's better to have overcast. You turn off all the lights. You only have the running lights on. You know there's fish in the area, and you're traveling around. You're looking, and you're usually around these shallows or banks. And when you see a school of tuna swimming through the water, it glows. It looks like a flying saucer in the water there. It is a phenomenon. And, if it's there, you're going to catch them at night. In the daytime, you miss a lot. But nonetheless, I was making big money. And I think, it was 84. Early in 84, we were coming back. We had a load, but the skipper was going to stop at Catalina. And what happened was, we're in Catalina. You're drinking in Catalina. I don't know if you guys have ever been there or not, but it used to be a better drinking town than it is now. It was really, you don't have to drive anywhere. I mean, you can drink as much as you want. And, with tequila, I found out you don't need any party favors. That was it. You don't need any blow. You don't need any pills. You're just on the run. And the singer was sucked, man. This guy sucked. And so I was trying to get up. I wanted to help these guys, man. And they weren't too happy about it. And I was pushing the band off the stage, and, I got arrested. And, there's no jail in Avalon, man. They'll hold you until some guys from the boat come back and get you. And needless to say, I got in a lot of trouble there. And that's what you call a blackout. I heard I was a lot of fun in a blackout. Now, I don't know, but and I heard I drove very well in blackouts. I don't recommend it either. But anyway, I got back to the boat, and I passed out. I came to, and I got up. I started bugging everybody on the boat, and they were going to kick my ass. And I'm climbing up this crow's nest, to the ladder of the crow's nest, and these guys are after me, and I dove in the water, and it woke me up. When I came up and there's 12 heads looking over the boat at me, I just go, oh man, I'm screwed here. And I started swimming for the shore. And yeah, it was too far, man. Man, I can't make it. They kept saying, come on back, come on back, come on back. When I got back there, they were going to kill, the skipper was going to kill me. He wanted to kill me. And, but they locked me in a brine well. Now, you couldn't do that nowadays. You can't do that anymore. You know, that's a confined space. But when somebody's, you know, on a mad drunk, you know, what else are you going to do with them? So anyway, needless to say, I came to that morning and we were in San Pedro and the skipper goes, hey, he goes, man, I had to fire 4 guys because of you. And I go, what do you mean? What happened? He goes, they got pissed off and they got in a fight over what we did. We put you in that brine well. They said, you're not supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. And a big fight ensued. And he goes, I had to fire those guys. And he goes, what am I going to do with you? And I go, you know, Nick, fired is fired. You know, I can't work. I can't do this, man. I can't get 4 guys fired and me get back on the boat. I go, I'm leaving. So I packed my stuff. Somebody came down to pick me up. He called me that night. He says, hey, listen, if you come down and unload, he goes, you could have your job back. And the arrogant Frank goes, you know, Nick, I was looking for a job when I got your job with you. I'll have no problem finding another job. You know, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, when I started working the steps, I had a lot of resentments. And 2 of them were the coaches that I had in high school. And they put their family members and their nephews in front of me. And I made up my mind, you know, they were on my 4th step, and I made up my mind that nobody is going to outwork me. And so I just had that attitude. I'd be able to get a job anywhere. And I could, you know, if the boat was gone. But if you added alcohol, I was useless, you know, and I couldn't get a job after that. And, you know, I'd go down to one of the other boats and they'd go, oh, no. Or get the F out of here. And you hear that enough, and you know, with the reputation that I had, you know, I was a troublemaker, I was a drunk, I was a drinker, I was a bad influence on their sons, I was a bad influence on their daughters, and you know, it was you know, when you're at the end of the rope and people tell, you know, F you, and really I had no place else to go. So I was just getting extra work out of this. It was called the meat locker before it was the casual home. And I was just getting extra work out of there. And, you know, I couldn't make up enough money to support my habit. I couldn't steal enough to support my habit. And, you know, I just couldn't live with myself anymore. So I got 6 days of work that week. And I knew what I was going to do. I had enough money to kill myself. Now, I've been CPR'd for the last 37 years. I trained. And I did more CPR before I ever got trained. You know, I had a roommate that killed himself with my gun. Like I said, one of my other roommates was a dealer. And every once in a while, somebody would OD in the house and would be working on him like that. The other connection, I went into the house and his wife committed suicide on purpose. And I saw the note and everything, and I'm just going, oh my God, man. This is, you know, I knew what to do. I knew how to do this. I wrote the note. I went to the connections house. I got enough. I got 2 syringes. I went to an abandoned bunker complex at Angel Skate Park, and I did myself in. And I came to in a hospital. I don't know how anybody found me there. Miracle, gospel, miracle. And I ended up at San Pedro Hospital. And oh man, I'm in detox for 9 days, and then you go in and you go to group and you start talking about yourself. You start, you know, talking, and you know, I had about 9 days, and I thank God you guys were there because I'm good now. I didn't mean to do that. I'm never going to do that again, and I don't need to stay here. I'm leaving, and they convinced me, hey man, you tried to kill yourself, man. Maybe you ought to stick around for a little while. And I was, man, I really didn't want to. And AA was coming in there, H&I, God bless H&I. And so we were going to the Saturday night meeting there every Saturday night. And one of my roommates, one of my roommates was there. He goes, man, I've been waiting for you for 4 years. Yeah, Don, listen, maybe you could do me a favor. Maybe you could be my sponsor. They keep asking me to get a sponsor. He's younger than me. I figured I could manipulate this guy. And, you know, you're never going to manipulate anybody that's working the steps and working a program. You know, you become a man when you start doing this stuff. And I go, okay. He goes, listen, I want you to, are you willing to go to any lengths? Yeah. Are you willing to go along spiritual lines? Hey, Don, I don't know what that means, man. He goes, listen, he goes, I want you to go to a meeting every day. And I go, listen, I got to go to group when I get out of here. I got to go to group. And he goes, group don't count. He goes, I want you to go to an AA meeting. I go, I'm not an alcoholic, Don. I am not an alcoholic. And he goes, don't tell me you're not an alcoholic. When you came home, you came with a case or a quart. Every time you came in the house, you had to have 2 different liquor stores and did 2 different bars. Don't tell me you're not an alcoholic. Listen, I'm an addict, okay? And you know what he told me? He goes, you got a reservation. Because when you get out of the hospital, you know, the narcotics got you here, right? So you're gonna still drink. So what I did was, he showed me the AA on the plaque in front of the podium, and I just go, how in the does that happen? And because, you know, I knew about people that went to AA. They were all losers. You know, you never saw the winners that got into this program until you come to the program and see the people that stay sober. All I saw was the people that show up and go to AA because they blew up the house next door, and then 3 weeks later they're coming, look, I got this book, I'm going to A&A. Aunt Betty had ruined every Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving that we ever had. Once you start drinking, it was like, it's gonna be different this time. But it wasn't. I never saw the winners till I started coming here. So I just go, shit. I went back to my seat. I was so disgusted, man. I sit down in my seat and the 45-minute speaker gets up there. This guy gets up there and he goes, my name's so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic. That means I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. I live my life to the words of popular music. And you know, where I came from, we had a soundtrack. We had a soundtrack. It was on the radio, it was on tape, and a CD, the albums. You know, we had it all the time. You know, the Doors, the Stones, the Kinks, you know, the Creedence, the Tops, the Temps. You know, we had the best music in the world. And this guy started telling my story, and I'm going, wait a minute. This guy's not that brown bag carrying, sidewalk sleeping, trench coat wearing bum. This guy is like, he's telling my story. And you know, something happened there, man. A miracle happened. Something clicked in my head. And you know, there's a part in the book where it talks about to be able to listen as only the dying can, with all the desperation of a drowning man. I don't know about you guys, but I almost drowned a couple times. And I was at Torrance Beach, 14 years old. And the Pedro section, my brother's on the beach, my friends are on the beach, the lifeguard's there, I'm dying in a riptide, and my ego would not let me yell for help. And what I did, oh my God, please help me, God, help me, God help me. I ended up drifting down the beach. I never talked about it until I got into recovery. And you know, when that egomaniac thing, I just go, wow. So I'm reading the book. I wanted it on tape, okay? I wanted it on tape. I want to listen to it. And he goes, no, man, you're not going to listen to it. He goes, let me hear you read. And he goes, you could read 1 page a day. And I'm reading this book, okay? Bill, God, what a loser Bill is, man. I'm just going, what's the matter with this guy, man? And then, you know, and then I get to the part where it talks about being passengers on a great shipwreck. I go, oh man, that's me, I was there. And it goes, no, from steerage to captain's table. I don't know if you know where steerage is on a boat. It's all the way to the stern where the 140-ton rudder is, the propeller's there, and you're real close to the bilge. I know who I am, man. I'm no hoity-toity guy. I'm down here with the hoi polloi. And I go, this is bullshit. And then I got to page 62, and it goes, so selfishness and self-centeredness, we think, is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We stepped on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate, sometimes seemingly without provocation. But inevitably, at some time in the past, we've done something that, you know, we stepped on their toes and they retaliate, seemingly without provocation. And I'm just going, oh my God. They're talking about me. And then it goes down. The next line is, in the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. And it's like, I'm not an alcoholic. Yeah, you don't think so. You're it. You're it. They put that in there for people like you. And then I get to the next page and it talks about resentments. Resentments, sometimes fancy, sometimes real. Sometimes I make them up. I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of resentments, you know, and then it goes on a little bit further and it talks about fear. You know, page 68. If you haven't read page 68, you got a homework assignment tonight. Read page 68, because it'll tell you what you're here for. We're in the world to play the role that he assigns. You know, just to, as we think he would have us do, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity? You know, and you're going to meet a lot of calamity in recovery. You know, I've been in recovery a long time. If we're going Fred Brown, class of 84, Fred's the guy that got me into this. Fred's the guy, when I was in that hospital, coming down in detox, he would come on out here. Fred, come on. I'm trying to sleep. He goes, you can't sleep. You're sick. You can't sleep. Come on out here. Let's go in the kitchen. What are you going to do when you get out of here? I don't know. I'm going to call my parents. He goes, your parents aren't going to have anything to do with you. And well, I'll figure something out. He goes, no, man. He goes, there's this, I was a postman that inherited a house on Santa Cruz in Pacific. And he goes, listen, we got some guys down there. And I got a place for you to go. You got to come down. You got to come down and talk to the guys there. And I go, Fred, I don't want to do it. He goes, just come on down. I go, Fred, I don't got any money. And he goes, you don't got to worry about money. I don't know about you. Any time somebody tells me it's free, I see you later. I don't care what it is. See you later. And he goes, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He convinced me to go down there. So they're having the house meeting on Tuesday night. When we have a house meeting, it's like going to a hanging because we're like checking everybody out. Hey, did you really go to that meeting? You didn't go to that meeting. I was at the grinder and you were at the grinder. You didn't go to the meeting. You calling me a liar? I'm saying you didn't go to the meeting, okay? It's like, oh my God, what an education I got. Sorry, that's another word I learned not to say from the guys in the house. Frank, you're always saying sorry this, sorry that. And I'm glad I had a sponsor because my sponsor, I called him, man, I'm getting hammered with this sorry stuff. And he goes, why don't you look it up in the dictionary? And he goes, don't look it up in just one dictionary. You had a couple dictionaries and look it up. So I had to call him back and he goes, did you do the assignment? And I go, yeah. And he goes, what's it mean? Sorry means to feel wretched, pitiful, or poor. And he goes, yeah, that's right. He goes, you know something, if you don't feel wretched, pitiful, or poor, do not say it. Just say, I'll check myself, I'll all right, maybe I'll take a look at that. But quit saying I'm sorry. Oh my God, man. I'm dead serious about this, and I was dead serious then. My life depended on this then, and other people were in the place to save their job, to get out of jail, for their family. But you know something, like I said, I was blessed with that gift of desperation. I wanted this. I wrote that first step. My first step was 11 and a half pages. All the time I'd be drinking. Once I start drinking, I'm going to the Connections house. Once I start smoking the roach in the morning just to get a pick-me-up, I'm going to the liquor store. And then, when hey man, I'm done with this stuff, I'd throw all the paraphernalia off of White's Point. And then the next day I'd start drinking again. I'd be hanging by the plants trying to get the paraphernalia back. When I talk about this story, when I tell my story, I'm a legend. But when I write it down and I read it back to people, I turn into a POS real quick. The truth comes out between the pen and the paper. And you cannot substitute work in here. And I'm talking about writing, I'm talking about reading, I'm talking about making phone calls, I'm talking about using the dictionary, I'm talking about calling a sponsor. I'm at these meetings, I'm a new guy, and these old timers are in there. One of the guys called on me, and I'm going to group therapy, I'm learning, I got feelings, and I'm talking about them. And I found out I'm a sensitive guy. And so I said that, and this guy goes, this old timer shared right after me. He goes, sensitive? You're not sensitive. You're self-centered. You kids think life should be one big bubble bath. And it's just like, ugh. And so I thank God I had a sponsor. You know what I mean? I needed a sponsor to go back and talk because I want to quit. If I got to put up with this kind of stuff in recovery, I don't want any part of it. And what happened was one of my buddies was really involved in NA. And really, that's where I needed to go in the beginning. And NA, I love NA, don't get me wrong, but really, NA broke my heart when they did away with the Our Father. I'm an Our Father guy. I'm a Ten Commandment guy. I need to be checked on a daily basis. And it really did a world of good for me. GSR, ASR, commitments. Matter of fact, the Tuesday night meeting started at the Santa Cruz house. The Santa Cruz house where I was the first GSR for that meeting. And it worked out fine. But living with people in a recovery situation, you never know anybody till you live with them, And this is if you could live here, if you could do this, you're going to be able to live anywhere. Because if you can't make it in here, you're not going to make it out there. And if I can't make it into the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm not going to make it out in the real world. Because I'm going to have to put up with some real stuff. One of these guys used to really pull my leg. He goes, Frank, you're always trying to think your way into better living. And I thought that was a compliment, man. I thought he was telling me I was smart. And he kept saying this. And when I was talking to my sponsor, I had to call my sponsor every day because I'm getting effed with on a regular basis. You know, I need to know the language, man. And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, yeah, he's pulling your leg. And I go, what's he talking about? He goes, well, you need to start living your way into better thinking. And I go, what do you mean, Don? And he goes, you need to get into the steps, man. That's where you're going to find out about yourself. And you know, when I got into the steps, you know something, I'm going to tell you, one of my favorite prayers, and I've refined it now, is the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me, to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, so I may better do thy will. Guide me through my difficulties, Lord, because difficulties build character, and you're a God that demands character. And you know what? I was a character when I got here. And you know something, recovery has given me some character on a daily basis. You know, like I told you, I was a grateful member of Al-Anon. It's the last place I wanted to be. Come on, man. You're the one with a problem. Arrogant, smug, self-righteous, dominating, controlling. You guys don't do none of that, right? You know, it's like, you know, with alcohol, it's resentful. No, it's selfish. Self-centered, it's fear, it's sex and relationship, oversensitive, undisciplined. Do any of those things ring a bell? You know what I mean? It's like, it took me a little bit of work because you were the guys with the program, but with the problem. When I started doing my fourth step, things really started coming true. You know, because it was Judge Binns, it was Judge Perkovich, Judge Yelisich, it was Division 87, it was Officer Nelson, Officer Cruz, Officer Diaz, Officer Gutierrez, Officer Quick. And you know something, I had a personal relationship with the jailer. Aguilar was his name back then. And, you know, I was a victim. You know, I was a victim. You know, what are you doing, man? Don't you got anything better for me to do? All I'm trying to do is having a good time. Hey, man, you knocked off 2 telephone poles in that light fixture, and you're in the middle of the park. The car's on its side. What do you mean you're having a lot of fun? F you. And then I got my ass kicked. I got my ass kicked so bad one time that the jailer wouldn't take me. And I looked at those guys. I go, what are you gonna do with me now? We're taking you to the hospital. Nah, you just dropped me off at home. We're taking you to the hospital. Needless to say, I got to watch myself. You know something? I had 34 years at one time. And 4 years ago, I went on an Ambien. I'm going to tell you guys. Well, let me tell you another thing. In 1989, I found out that I had this. It was called chronic active hepatitis. And they call it hepatitis C now. But back then there was no cure, there was nothing for it. You were in all these different studies. And from 1989 to 2001, I was on these experimental medications. Intron, interferon, alpha B2, Procrit, ribavirin, ass-kicking medications. It's like being on a low dose of chemotherapy for 11 years. You know, you'll get up to the grocery shop, you'll go up to the ketchup stand, you know, do I want Del Monte? Do I want Heinz? Do I want Hunt's? One sweeter than the other. You know, this is serious stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. My mind was just out there. I couldn't make a decision. And I'm raising kids, man. Please, God bless you. You know, you single parents. But you know, when I divorced my first wife, my kids were 8 months and 18 months old. You know, what those kids did was they kept me sober. You know, sometimes all the best I could do is get them in the back seat and drive around and let them go to sleep like that and pull over and sleep in the car like that. You know, we come up with some really pretty neat stuff. Every once in a while, I look at myself as a failure as a parent. You know, I've got 3 boys, 1 daughter, 1 kid still out on the street. And I was cleaning up the attic the other day, and I'm looking through the pictures. And I'm looking at all the stuff, all the baseball games, all the plays I was at, all the vacations that I was at, you know, all the vacations we went to, and I'm just going, wow. And one more thing I want to tell you, we're everywhere. Recovery is everywhere. Me and my wife went on a cruise back in, right before COVID. For leave from Pedro, come back to Pedro. And there was 15 of us on that ship, 15 of us. We were having a better time than the people with the drinking package. That's gospel. We're having a better time than them. And when we were in Lahaina, this is before it burned down, people were going, Frank, Stephanie. And it was like, we were like locals there, man. Anywhere we go, you know, I've never been to the Rose Parade, but I've been to the Macy's Parade about 3 times. I like Manhattan. But when you go with your family, 10 days with them, it's, I love them dearly, but I get sick of them every now and then. And it was one of those nights when I was getting real sick of them. And it was my brother, my sister, a few cousins, and me and my kids were in one room, and I called my sister, and I go, you got to see if, I'm going to need some help watching these guys. 411, information, Atlantic Bell, operator, can you give me Alcoholics Anonymous? She goes, honey, do you want a meeting or do you want to go to intergroup? This is the information operator. And I go, I need a meeting. She goes, where are you? And I go, I'm at the what's that called? The United Nations Plaza. She goes, oh, there's one about 4 blocks from you. I go, can I walk? She goes, it's no problem. It's 37th and Lexington. That's where the Empire State Building is. So I'm looking for this meeting. It starts at 11 o'clock. It's 10:30. I'm walking around. I can't find it. I'm so disappointed. I hung my head down, and I'm walking home, and there it is in the basement of a brownstone. I see the chair with the circles with the reading on it. I'm going to tell you, with recovery, I can get through anything. I can get through anything, and you're going to have to do that. I took care of my mom. I took care of my dad. My dad was not talking to me. My dad would not talk to me. His name was in the paper twice for ongoing criminal activity. He gave me his name, and his name was in the paper. And I had to get that straightened out. And I was able to do that. And you know something, Division 87 is no longer there. And I'm going to tell you guys, you make a commitment here? Did you say how long you're going to stay? Fred, I made a 6-month commitment at the Santa Cruz house. And Fred asked me, he goes, I know your commitment's up. He goes, I need somebody, to manage. He goes, Harry's leaving. And I go, oh, you know what? I didn't want to do it. I made my commitment. I'm leaving. And so if you ever want to blow somebody off, this is how you do it. When they ask you to do something, tell them, let me run it by my sponsor. So I called Don. I go, hey man, Fred's asking me to do this, and he goes, yeah, well, wait, what are you getting out of it? He goes, you know what? It looks like you're going to get your driver's license back. It looks like you're going to get a job. You got 6 months now. It looks like you got enough money to move out to it. He goes, you know what? It's time for you to start giving back. And I go, what the heck does that mean? And he goes, this is what it's all about. It isn't about getting, it's about giving. And you know something? If I was you, you're going to stay there if you want me to be your sponsor. And it was the best investment I ever made. At 34 years. I operate a pipeline in the harbor here. It's DOT checks me out all the time, state lands, the fire department, Homeland Security. I'm in check all the time. And one of the things DOT wants you to take, they want you to get your sleep, and they recommend Ambien. And my third sponsor had died. Fred was my second sponsor. My first sponsor was chopped up down in Mexico. He said he didn't need AA anymore. He was just going to go to church. I go to church. I'm still a Catholic, man, but I go to 4 meetings a week. And Fred, God bless him, man. And if anybody says anything about Fred, you're going to hear it from me, because that man's helping more people from the grave than all of us in this room are right now. I just, oh God, man. So I started taking the Ambien. And I talked to my doctor about it. I guess non-narcotic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll talk to my wife. They give you 30. I heard a lot of people saying that they were an addict here. And 30 ain't enough for nothing, And when you start taking that stuff and you don't have it, there's a withdrawal there. And doc, I need something else. And well, how about lorazepam, Frank? Let's try lorazepam. And I go, hey, I need some help. And so, needless to say, I wasn't getting enough from my doctor. And I found other ways of getting it. And what I did was I had to start my time over again. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. I mean, it's part of my story. If you haven't relapsed, please don't talk about it, okay? If you haven't relapsed, don't scold anybody that has. And if you have, help the person in the room that has done it. I'm good. I'm good. God bless you guys, man. Thank you.